Hyperspace had always been predictable. Coordinates calculated, jump executed, emergence at the destination, a pattern the Republic Navy had perfected over millennia. Captain Rex had made thousands of hyperspace jumps during 3 years of Clone Wars, each one as routine as breathing, until the moment everything went catastrophically, impossibly wrong. "Sir, hyperdrive readings are spiking beyond safety parameters," the clone navigator shouted from his station aboard the Venator-class Star Destroyer Resolute. "I'm detecting spatial distortions that aren't in any navigation database. It's like hyperspace itself is tearing." General Anakin Skywalker, standing at the bridge's forward viewport, watching the blue-white tunnel of hyperspace, felt it through the Force before the instruments confirmed it. A wrongness, a fundamental violation of the natural order that made his connection to the cosmic energy recoil like touching fire. "Emergency reversion to real space," Anakin ordered, his hand instinctively moving to his lightsaber. "Now!" But the hyperdrive didn't respond to manual override. The Resolute continued hurtling through hyperspace as the tunnel around them began fragmenting, reality itself seeming to crack like shattered glass. Through those cracks, Anakin saw nothing. Not the darkness of space, but absolute void, the absence of existence itself. "Hyperdrive is non-responsive," the engineer reported, his voice carrying the controlled panic of a clone trooper facing the impossible. "Sir, we're experiencing dimensional displacement. The ship is being pulled through." He paused, checking readings that couldn't possibly be correct. "Through a spatial rift into uncharted space." Rex moved to stand beside Anakin, his helmet hiding the concern that 3 years of combat had taught him to suppress. "General, recommendations?" "Brace for impact," Anakin said grimly, reaching out through the Force to sense what awaited them beyond the rift. But for the first time in his life, the Force didn't answer. The connection that had always been there, constant as his heartbeat, simply stopped. Like a door slamming shut on the cosmic energy that flowed through all living things. "General?" Rex noticed Anakin's sudden rigidity, the way his hand clenched convulsively. "Are you?" The Resolute exploded into real space with violence that made conventional hyperspace emergence look gentle. Alarms shrieked across the bridge. Hull integrity warnings flashed red. And through the viewport, instead of the familiar star patterns of the Republic's galaxy, Anakin saw constellations he'd never encountered in any navigation chart, arranged in patterns that made no astronomical sense. "Damage report," Rex ordered, moving through the chaos with the practiced efficiency that had made him the Republic's finest clone commander. "Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. Hyperdrive is offline, completely burned out. Shields are fluctuating. Life support is stable but running on backup power. Sir, we've lost 57 crew members from decompression in the damaged sections." The tactical officer's voice remained steady, despite delivering news that meant they were stranded, damaged, and lost. "Seal the breached sections, stabilize shields. And somebody tell me where we are." Rex turned to the navigation station. "Get me our position relative to the core worlds." The navigator worked frantically, then looked up with an expression that would have been visible even through his helmet's polarized visor. "Sir, I can't establish our position. None of the stars match Republic navigation databases. I'm not detecting any Republic beacons, any known pulsars, any reference points that would let me triangulate our location." "Try broader parameters," Anakin said, though his voice sounded hollow even to his own ears. The absence of the Force was like losing a sense he'd never known he depended on until it vanished. He felt blind, deaf, fundamentally diminished. "Check for any recognizable contact," the sensor officer interrupted. "2 vessels approaching our position. Configuration unknown. Energy signatures unlike anything in our databases. Sir, one is hailing us on, I don't even know what frequency this is. It's not using standard Republic comm protocols." On the main view screen, 2 ships materialized that made even Anakin's extensive combat experience falter. One was sleek, elegant, its hull painted in colors that suggested scientific purpose rather than military aggression. Saucer-shaped primary hull, connected to an engineering section, with 2 nacelles extending from the secondary hull, glowing with blue-white energy that resonated with power signatures the Resolute's sensors couldn't classify. The second vessel was darker, more aggressive, painted in shades that suggested predatory intent. Its wings swept back in a configuration that looked almost organic. Narran weapons ports bristled across its hull with threatening promise. "Unknown vessels are scanning us," the tactical officer reported. "Passive scans, no weapons lock yet. But sir, those ships, our sensors can't determine their capabilities. The technology is completely alien." "Alien as in non-Republic?" Rex asked. "Alien as in non-anything we've ever encountered," the officer replied. "Their propulsion systems don't match ion drives, hyperdrive configurations, or even separatist droid ship designs. It's like they're operating on completely different physical principles." The hail came again, and this time the communications officer managed to establish a connection. The view screen shifted, showing a human female in a uniform Anakin didn't recognize, dark blue and black, with insignia that suggested rank but no faction he could identify. "Unknown vessel. This is Captain Michael Burnham of the Federation Starship Discovery," the woman said, her tone professional but wary. "You've entered a contested region of space during an active military conflict. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." Federation? Anakin had never heard of any government called the Federation, and the woman's appearance, human, but speaking basic with an accent he couldn't place, raised more questions than it answered. "Captain Burnham, I am General Anakin Skywalker of the Galactic Republic," Anakin replied, deciding honesty was preferable to deception when dealing with unknown variables. "We've experienced a catastrophic hyperspace malfunction and are attempting to determine our location. We mean no harm to your Federation." Burnham's expression shifted through surprise, confusion, and calculation in rapid succession. "Galactic Republic, General, there's no government by that name in any Federation database. And your ship's configuration, it's like nothing in Starfleet records. What do you mean by hyperspace malfunction?" Before Anakin could respond, a second transmission overrode the first. The view screen split, showing a Klingon. Anakin recognized the species from Republic xenobiology databases. Though these Klingons looked different, their forehead ridges more pronounced, glaring from the bridge of the bird-like warship. "I am Commander Cole of the Klingon Defense Force," the warrior growled, his voice carrying the rough edges of someone for whom violence was the first language and diplomacy a distant second. "Your vessel possesses weapons of impressive scale and unknown design. You will surrender your ship to Klingon authority or be destroyed." "Commander Cole, stand down," Burnham interjected. This vessel has made no hostile actions. Under Federation law means nothing in Klingon space, Cole snarled. This sector is contested. The Empire claims salvage rights to any damaged vessels found within our borders. Surrender or die. Rex moved closer to Anakin, his voice low. Sir, we're in no condition to fight. Shields are at 60%. Weapons are online, but we don't know the tactical capabilities of either ship. Recommendations. Anakin reached for the Force, seeking guidance, seeking any hint of what path to take, and felt nothing. The void where the Force should have been was so profound it made him physically nauseous. For his entire life, the Force had been there, guiding, warning, connecting him to the flow of cosmic energy. Now he was truly alone in his own mind for the first time since childhood. We negotiate, Anakin decided, hating the uncertainty in his own voice. But prepare defensive measures. Something's wrong here. The Force, I can't feel the Force. Rex's helmet turned toward him sharply. Sir, it's gone, Anakin said quietly. Completely absent. Either we've traveled to a region of space where the Force doesn't exist, or... He trailed off, the implications too disturbing to voice. On the view screen, Burnham was attempting to mediate. Commander Cole, if you attack a damaged vessel that's made no hostile actions, you violate the Khitomer Accords. The Accords are dead, Cole roared. The Federation started this war with your unprovoked attacks on our colonies. We will take this vessel as spoils of war, and you will not interfere. Captain, we're detecting weapons charging on the Klingon ship, the tactical officer reported. Disruptor banks and photon torpedoes. Sir, they're targeting our damaged sections. If they hit our weakened hull, we'll suffer catastrophic decompression. Anakin made the decision in a heartbeat. Raise shields to maximum. Target their weapon systems. Disable, don't destroy. Fire on my command. General Skywalker, please don't engage, Burnham urged. Let me handle this diplomatically. Escalating to violence will only... The Klingon ship fired first. Disruptor beams. Energy weapons, unlike anything in Republic arsenals, struck the Resolute's shields with enough force to rock the massive Star Destroyer. Damage alerts flashed across tactical displays. Shields holding at 47%, the tactical officer reported. Return fire. Target their forward weapons array, Rex ordered, his tactical experience overriding any hesitation about firing on unknown enemies. Precise shots. Let's show them what Republic turbo lasers can do. The Resolute's port turbo laser battery spoke with the distinctive green fire of Republic military might. The bolts, concentrated packets of plasma energy powered by hypermatter reactors, crossed the distance at near light speed and struck the Klingon bird of prey's shields with devastating effect. The Klingon ship's shields flared brilliant green. He held for exactly 1.3 seconds, then collapsed completely under firepower they had no framework to defend against. The turbo laser bolts punched through the unshielded hull, destroying the forward disruptor banks in precisely targeted strikes that left the rest of the ship intact. On the view screen, Commander Cole stared in shock at damaged displays that showed his primary weapons offline and his shields completely overwhelmed by a single salvo from an enemy he'd underestimated catastrophically. Impossible, Cole breathed. What kind of weapons? The kind you don't want to see used at full capacity, Anakin interrupted, his voice carrying steel despite the absence of the Force. Commander, I disabled your weapons but left your ship intact. Consider that a demonstration of capability and restraint. Now stand down before I'm forced to demonstrate what happens when we stop showing restraint." Captain Burnham's expression showed a mixture of relief and concern. "General Skywalker, on behalf of the Federation, I thank you for your intervention, but we need to discuss your capabilities and your presence in this sector. The Federation and Klingon Empire have been at war for months, and a third party with your level of military technology could drastically destabilize the regional power balance." "Captain, we didn't choose to be here," Anakin replied. "We're as confused about our location as you are about our presence. All we want is to repair our ship and find a way home." "Then perhaps we can help each other," Burnham suggested. "The Discovery has some of the most advanced scientific facilities in Starfleet. If you'll allow us to study your hyperdrive malfunction, maybe we can determine what happened and how to reverse it. In exchange, you maintain neutrality in our conflict with the Klingons." "And if we refuse your generous offer?" Rex asked, his tone making clear he recognized negotiation leverage when he saw it. "Then you're adrift in unknown space with a damaged ship, no navigation data, and hostile forces on all sides," Burnham replied honestly. "General, I'm offering alliance, asylum, and the best scientific minds in the Federation working to get you home. All I ask is that you don't use your superior weapons to intervene in our war." On the secondary display, Commander Cole's damaged ship was retreating, but the Klingon commander's final transmission carried more respect than his initial demands. "General Skywalker, do you fight with honor, showing mercy to defeated enemies while demonstrating overwhelming strength. This is the way of warriors. The Empire will remember your name. When we meet again, it will be as enemies or allies, but you have earned the right to that choice." The transmission ended, and Anakin turned to Rex. "Thoughts?" "We're damaged, lost, and operating blind without the Force to guide us," Rex said bluntly. "The Federation is offering help. The Klingons are offering respect at weapons point. Sir, I don't know what the right call is here. This isn't the kind of war we trained for." Anakin looked out at the unfamiliar stars, feeling the absence of the Force like a phantom limb, knowing that whatever choice he made would commit the 501st Legion to consequences he couldn't predict. "Captain Burnham," Anakin said finally, "we accept your offer, but understand, the 501st Legion doesn't surrender our weapons, our autonomy, or our right to defend ourselves. We'll maintain neutrality in your war as long as your Federation proves itself worthy of alliance. Break faith with us and you'll discover that Republic military technology is only part of what makes us dangerous." "Understood, General," Burnham replied. "Welcome to the 23rd century, and welcome to a galaxy very different from the one you left behind." As the Resolute maneuvered to follow the Discovery toward Federation space, Anakin couldn't shake the feeling that their arrival here wasn't accident. The Force might be absent, but patterns remained. And something about this situation, stranded in an unknown galaxy during someone else's war, felt disturbingly familiar. They'd escaped one galactic conflict only to fall into another. The only question was whether the 501st would survive long enough to find a way home, or whether home even existed anymore in a universe where the Force itself had abandoned them. If you want to see more crossover scenarios where Star Wars meets other universes, hit that subscribe button and drop in the comments what crossover you'd want to see next. The 501st Legion is about to discover that warfare in the Star Trek universe follows very different rules, and that honor, logic, and idealism can be just as dangerous as lightsabers and the Force. The Resolute limped into Federation space under Discovery's escort, its massive hull drawing stares from every Starfleet vessel they passed. At 1,137 meters long, the Venator-class Star Destroyer dwarfed even the largest Federation starships, a flying fortress that represented military philosophy fundamentally different from Starfleet's exploration-focused designs. Captain's Log Supplemental, Michael Burnham recorded as she watched the Republic vessel through her ready room viewport. We've made first contact with a civilization claiming to be from another galaxy entirely, possibly another dimension. Their technology operates on principles our science teams can't explain. Their military capabilities exceed anything in Starfleet arsenals, and their presence here during our war with the Klingons could change everything. She paused, considering her next words carefully. General Skywalker seems honorable, but he's also a military commander leading what he calls a clone army. Soldiers who are apparently genetically engineered for warfare. The ethical implications are staggering, and the tactical implications. If either side in this war gains access to Republic technology, the balance of power shifts catastrophically. A chime at her door interrupted the log. "Come." Commander Saru entered, his threat ganglia slightly extended, a tell that indicated his species' natural anxiety response. "Captain, the away team has returned from the Resolute. Lieutenant Commander Stamets is requesting an immediate briefing. He says, and I quote, 'Everything we know about physics is wrong, and I need to explain why before my head explodes.'" Burnham allowed herself a slight smile. Sounds like Stamets. Assemble the senior staff. And Commander, invite General Skywalker and Captain Rex to join us. This concerns their ship. They deserve to hear the analysis. 30 minutes later, the Discovery's briefing room hosted what might have been the strangest gathering in Federation history. On one side of the table sat Starfleet officers in their distinctive uniforms. On the other, Anakin Skywalker in Jedi robes that marked him as something between warrior and monk, flanked by Captain Rex in armor that made Starfleet security gear look primitive by comparison. "All right, Stamets," Burnham began. "Explain what you found." Lieutenant Commander Paul Stamets, the Discovery's astromycologist and chief science officer, pulled up holographic displays that showed the Resolute's damaged hyperdrive. "Captain, what we're looking at shouldn't be possible. The Republic's faster-than-light travel doesn't use warp drive. It doesn't bend space around the ship. Instead, it punches the ship into an alternate dimension they call hyperspace, where different physical laws apply and faster-than-light travel becomes possible. Like the mycelial network Tilly observed from her position at the science station. Superficially similar, but fundamentally different, Stamets corrected. The mycelial network exists beneath normal space. Hyperspace exists alongside it, a parallel dimension where ships can travel faster than light because light speed limits don't apply the same way. But the mathematics are extraordinary. They're using principles that predate Federation warp theory by thousands of years, but arrive at completely different solutions. "Can we replicate it?" Burnham asked. "Not with current technology," Stamets admitted. "But Captain, that's not the important discovery. When the Resolute experienced its malfunction, The hyperdrive didn't just fail, it tore through dimensional barriers that separate our universe from theirs. The energy readings suggest a forced breach, not a natural phenomenon. Something pulled them through. Anakin leaned forward, his expression intense. Are you saying our arrival here wasn't an accident? I'm saying the probability of a random hyperdrive malfunction creating a stable dimensional rift is approximately 1 in 10 to the 14th power, Stamets replied. General, someone or something wanted your ship in our universe. Rex's hand moved unconsciously toward his blaster. Separatist sabotage? Unlikely, Stamets said. The energy patterns don't match anything in the Republic's technology database. This was done using principles neither our civilization nor yours fully understands. Whoever did this has access to dimensional manipulation technology that makes our most advanced science look primitive. Wonderful, Anakin said dryly. So we're stuck in an unknown universe because some unknown force with unknown technology pulled us here for unknown reasons. That narrows it down. General Skywalker, Commander Saru interjected, his diplomatic training overriding his natural anxiety. Perhaps we should discuss the more immediate concern. Your presence in this sector has already affected the strategic balance. The Klingon High Council knows you destroyed one of their ship's shields in a single salvo. They'll either seek alliance with you or ensure you're eliminated before you can aid the Federation. We destroyed the shields, not the ship, Rex corrected, and only after they fired first. The 501st doesn't start fights, Commander, but we finish them. A distinction the Klingons may not appreciate, Saru replied. Their culture values strength, honor, and combat prowess. Your demonstration of superior firepower will have earned their respect. But respect in Klingon society comes with expectations. They'll expect you to declare allegiance, to fight alongside warriors you've proven yourself equal to. We're not getting involved in your war, Anakin said firmly. The 501st has our own conflict to return to. The Clone Wars are being fought in another universe, Burnham interrupted gently. General, I understand your loyalty to the Republic, but you're here now in our reality, and your actions have consequences whether you intend them or not. Remaining neutral might not be an option. It has to be an option, Anakin insisted, and Burnham heard frustration beneath the determination. Captain, my entire life I've been guided by the Force, a cosmic energy that connects all living things, that shows the right path forward. But here, in your universe, the Force doesn't exist. I'm operating blind, making decisions without the guidance I've relied on since childhood. So forgive me if I'm unwilling to commit my troops to a conflict I don't understand in a universe that has already stripped me of the one certainty I had. The admission hung in the air, and Burnham saw the other Starfleet officers processing the implications. This wasn't just a military commander displaced from his galaxy. This was someone who'd lost a fundamental part of himself in the transition. General, Burnham said carefully, the Federation doesn't ask you to fight our war. We ask only that you honor the principles Starfleet was founded on: peaceful coexistence, mutual cooperation, and the belief that different civilizations can find common ground. Noble words, Rex observed, but words don't repair hyperdrive damage. Commander Stamets, can your technology fix our ship, or can't it? Stamets exchanged a glance with Burnham before answering. The damage is extensive. Even with our most advanced repair facilities, we're looking at months of work. And that's assuming we can even replicate some of your more exotic components. Your hypermatter reactor, for example, uses principles that violate Federation understanding of matter-antimatter interactions. Months, Anakin repeated, the word carrying the weight of impossible timelines. The Clone Wars won't wait months. Every day we're stuck here is another day the Separatists gain ground. Another day Republic forces fight without the 501st's support. Every day you remain here is also another day you influence our war. A new voice interjected. Burnham turned to see Admiral Cornwell entering the briefing room via hologram, her expression grave. General Skywalker, Captain Rex, I'm Admiral Katrina Cornwell, Starfleet Command. I've been reviewing Captain Burnham's reports on your capabilities. Your weapons technology alone could end the Federation-Klingon War in a matter of weeks, decisively, in favor of whichever side you support. We don't support either side, Anakin replied. We support getting home. Then let me be blunt, Cornwell said. Your neutrality is destabilizing. The Klingons know you're here. They know you possess superior firepower. If they believe you'll aid the Federation, they'll strike preemptively. If they believe you can be recruited, they'll make overtures that might draw you into conflict regardless of your intentions. Your very presence makes this war more volatile. Are you asking us to leave Federation space? Rex asked, his tone neutral, but his posture suggesting he was ready for that particular fight. I'm asking you to understand the position you've put us in, Cornwell replied. The Federation is losing this war. The Klingons have superior numbers, superior firepower, and a cultural predisposition toward warfare that makes them formidable enemies. We've been fighting a defensive campaign for months, barely holding our borders. If the Klingons gain access to your technology, they won't, Anakin interrupted. The Resolute security protocols are designed to prevent technology acquisition. Even if the Klingons captured our ship, they'd find self-destructing systems that would render everything useless before they could analyze it. General, the Klingons won't try to capture your ship, Cornwell said. They'll try to capture you, your crew, your soldiers, force you to build weapons for them or watch your people die. That's how the Empire operates when they encounter superior technology. The threat hung in the air, and Burnham saw Anakin's expression harden into something dangerous. This was a commander who'd fought a galactic war for 3 years, who'd watched clone troopers die by the thousands, and who had exactly zero patience for threats to his troops. Admiral, Anakin said with the kind of calm that preceded violence, the 501st Legion has faced separatist droid armies, Sith assassins, and overwhelming odds on 100 battlefields. If the Klingon Empire wants to threaten my troops, they're welcome to try. They'll discover that Republic soldiers don't break under torture. We're trained to resist interrogation techniques your civilization probably considers war crimes. And if pushed, we'll fight our way out of any prison they can build. That's exactly what I'm trying to prevent, Cornwell replied. General, I'm not threatening you. I'm warning you that both sides in this war will see you as a resource to be exploited. The Federation would prefer peaceful cooperation. The Klingons will prefer forceful acquisition, but neither side can afford to let you remain truly neutral. Then perhaps, a new transmission interrupted, the General should hear what the Empire offers before making his decision. The holographic display shifted, showing a Klingon bridge. But the figure who appeared wasn't Commander Cole. This Klingon was older, his face bearing scars that spoke of decades of combat, his uniform marking him as high-ranking, and his eyes held cunning that made it clear he was more than simple warrior. "I am General Martok of the Klingon Defense Force," the warrior said, his voice carrying authority that commanded respect even across species barriers. "General Skywalker, Captain Rex, I have studied the encounter reports from Commander Cole's engagement with your vessel. Your tactics were sound, your firepower was devastating, your restraint in victory was surprising." "Surprising?" Rex asked. "Klingons do not show mercy to defeated enemies," Martok explained. "We destroy them or grant them honorable death in combat. You disabled Cole's weapons but spared his ship and crew. This suggests either weakness or unusual strategic thinking. I believe the latter." "General Martok," Admiral Cornwell interjected sharply, "you're violating Federation space with this transmission. How did you even—" "Please, Admiral," Martok waved dismissively. "The Federation's encryption is adequate against most threats. Against Klingon intelligence, less so, but I digress. General Skywalker, I make you an offer. Join the Empire. Fight alongside warriors who understand that honor is earned through combat, not debated in council chambers. Your 501st Legion would be given autonomous command, respect as elite warriors, and glory that comes from serving an empire that values strength." "And if we refuse?" Anakin asked, genuinely curious. "Then you remain neutral. We respect your choice and hope that when battle calls, you remember which side offered brotherhood rather than philosophical lectures about peace." Martok's expression suggested he knew exactly how Starfleet's diplomatic approach might grate on military commanders. "The Empire has no interest in forcing your alliance. We would rather earn it through mutual respect between warriors." "General Martok," Rex said before Anakin could respond, "the 501st appreciates the offer, but we serve the Galactic Republic. Until we find a way home, we can't transfer that loyalty to another government." "Then serve yourselves," Martok suggested. "Remain independent, but know that when the Federation inevitably asks you to sacrifice your principles for their strategic goals, the Empire will remember you fought with honor and showed mercy when mercy wasn't required. That is worth more than any tactical advantage." The transmission ended, and the briefing room fell into uncomfortable silence. "Well," Stamets said finally, "that was dramatic." "That was calculated," Saru corrected. "General Martok is known as one of the Klingon Empire's finest strategic minds. He just positioned the Klingons as respecting the 501st's independence, while implying the Federation will constrain it. It's a masterful diplomatic maneuver." "It's also largely true," Burnham admitted, shooting a glance at Admiral Cornwell's hologram. "The Federation can't allow Republic technology to proliferate. We'll want oversight of repairs, security protocols, limitations on 501st operations in Federation space. The Klingons are offering freedom we simply can't match." "Captain," Cornwell warned. "Admiral." "They deserve honesty," Burnham replied. "General Skywalker, the Federation will help you, but that help comes with strings attached. We can't risk your weapons technology destabilizing the quadrant further, which means repairs will be supervised, your ship's movements will be monitored, and your operations will require Starfleet approval." Anakin stood, his expression unreadable. "Captain Burnham, Admiral Cornwell, thank you for your honesty. Rex and I need to discuss this with our command staff. We'll have an answer for you within 12 hours. As the Republic officers left the briefing room, Burnham turned to her senior staff. "Opinions?" "They're going to reject our oversight," Tilly said immediately. "Those are soldiers who've been fighting a war for years. They won't accept restrictions that could get them killed." "Then we risk them accepting the Klingon offer," Saru observed. "Captain, if the 500 first allies with the Empire, this war becomes unwinnable." "Or," Stamets suggested, "we give them a third option, help them get home. Actually commit our resources to solving the dimensional breach rather than trying to leverage their presence for strategic advantage." Burnham considered that, knowing it was the right thing to do and also knowing Starfleet Command would never approve it. The Federation was losing a war. The 501st represented a chance to turn the tide, and admirals who'd watched colonies burn would make pragmatic choices about leveraging whatever advantages appeared. "Admiral," Burnham said to Cornwell's hologram, "I recommend we honor their neutrality. Help them repair their ship with minimal oversight. Show them the Federation respects their autonomy." "Recommendation noted and denied," Cornwell replied. "Captain, the safety of billions of Federation citizens outweighs the diplomatic comfort of 30,000 displaced soldiers. You'll maintain surveillance on the Resolute. You'll ensure their weapons remain in Federation custody during repairs, and you'll prevent any technology transfer to either side in this war. Is that understood?" "Understood, Admiral," Burnham said, hating every word. "Good. Cornwell out." As the hologram disappeared, Burnham looked at her assembled officers and saw her own conflict reflected in their expressions. They'd sworn to uphold Federation principles, but those principles were colliding with pragmatic necessity, and she wasn't certain which should win. "Captain," Tilly said quietly, "what are we going to do when General Skywalker asks if we're really going to help him get home?" "I don't know," Burnham admitted, "but I'm starting to understand why he misses having the Force to guide him. Because right now, I could use some cosmic guidance myself." The cultural exchange program had been Captain Burnham's idea, an attempt to build understanding between the 501st and Starfleet, while repairs on the Resolute proceeded in dry dock. In practice, it had become a study in fundamental incompatibility. "With all due respect, Commander," Captain Rex said to Saru in the Discovery's mess hall, his voice carrying the patience of someone explaining basic tactics to a cadet, "your security protocols are designed for exploration missions, not military operations. Your personnel rotate shifts based on efficiency models that prioritize rest and mental health. That's admirable. It's also tactically suicidal." Saru's threat ganglia rippled with barely suppressed frustration. "Captain Rex, the Starfleet security officers are trained professionals capable of defending this vessel against any threat they've encountered before," Rex interrupted. "Commander, I've watched your tactical drills. Your people train for boarding actions, hostage situations, containment breaches. They're good at what they do, but they're not soldiers. They're security officers playing at military operations." "And your clone troopers?" Saru challenged. "Genetically engineered from birth to follow orders without question. Captain, that's not professional military service. That's slavery with better weapons." The mess hall went silent. Several clone troopers turned toward Saru, with expressions that suggested the Kelpian had crossed a line he didn't fully understand. Rex's hand didn't move toward his blaster, but his posture shifted in ways that made Starfleet security personnel unconsciously reach for their phasers. "Commander Saru," Rex said with dangerous calm, "every clone trooper in the 500 first volunteered for this mission, knowing the risks. We're bred for combat, yes, trained from childhood, absolutely, but we choose to serve the Republic. We choose to stand between civilians and separatist aggression. We choose to die for causes we believe in. That's not slavery, that's duty you clearly don't understand." "You were created in laboratories," Saru insisted, "designed to be obedient, to accept casualty rates that would horrify any ethical civilization. The Federation banned genetic engineering specifically to prevent the kind of eugenic programs your Republic apparently embraces." "The Federation," a new voice interjected, "has the luxury of moral superiority because you've never faced extinction-level threats requiring desperate measures." Anakin Skywalker entered the mess hall, his presence immediately commanding attention in ways that had nothing to do with rank and everything to do with the aura of barely contained intensity he carried. 3 weeks without the Force had left him rawer somehow, more present in ways that made even experienced Starfleet officers uncomfortable. "General Skywalker," Saru began, "I meant no disrespect to—" "Commander, you called my troops slaves," Anakin said flatly. "That's disrespect by definition, but you're also raising legitimate ethical questions that the Republic has debated for 3 years. So let me explain something about the Clone Wars that might give you context." He pulled up a holographic display showing galactic maps the Discovery's computer had adapted from Republic databases. The Separatist Alliance controls approximately 1/3 of known space, thousands of systems, trillions of beings. They have effectively unlimited droid armies manufactured in factories that produce thousands of battle droids per day. The Republic's civilian population isn't militarized. We don't have a warrior culture like your Klingons. We're bureaucrats, merchants, diplomats, artists, people who spent 1,000 years building a civilization dedicated to peace. The display shifted, showing battle footage that made several Starfleet officers flinch. Droid armies overwhelming Republic positions, cities burning, with civilian casualties measured in millions. "When the war started, we had 2 choices," Anakin continued. "Conscript our civilian population, force farmers and teachers and families into military service they weren't trained for, or use a clone army created specifically for warfare. The Jedi Council chose clones, not because we're comfortable with genetic engineering, but because sending untrained civilians against droid armies would be mass slaughter." "That doesn't make it ethical," Saru argued, though his tone had softened. "Those clone troopers are sentient beings entitled to self-determination, not weapons manufactured for protecting people who can't protect themselves," Rex interrupted. "Commander, I'm not asking you to approve of how I was created. I'm asking you to recognize that I make choices. Every clone trooper in this Legion could desert, could refuse orders, could decide the Republic isn't worth dying for. We don't. Not because we're programmed, but because we believe the cause is just. Even when that cause treats you as expendable," Tilly asked quietly from her position at a nearby table. "I've reviewed casualty statistics from your Clone Wars. The 501st has a 97% replacement rate over 3 years. That means nearly every trooper who started the war is dead. How is that acceptable? It's not, Anakin admitted, his voice carrying pain that surprised the Starfleet officers. Every clone who dies under my command is a failure. A life I couldn't save despite all the force power, all the tactical genius, all the Jedi training. But Ensign, war isn't about acceptable losses. It's about choosing between terrible options and living with the consequences. The Federation believes there's always an alternative to violence, Burnham said, entering the conversation carefully. That dialogue, understanding, and mutual cooperation can resolve conflicts without resorting to warfare. Captain, Anakin turned to face her. How's that philosophy working in your war with the Klingons? The pointed question hung in the air. Burnham wanted to defend Federation principles, to argue that the war with the Klingons was an aberration, a temporary breakdown in normally functional diplomatic systems. But she'd seen the casualty reports, watched colonies burn, attended memorial services for Starfleet personnel killed in battles that diplomacy had failed to prevent. The situation with the Klingons is complicated, Burnham admitted. It's war, Rex corrected. Different scale than the Clone Wars, different factions, different technology, but fundamentally the same. Two sides believe their positions are irreconcilable, so they kill each other until one side surrenders or gets exterminated. Pretending otherwise is just intellectual cowardice. Captain Rex, Admiral Cornwell's voice came through the ship-wide comm system. Please report to the bridge. General Skywalker, you as well. We have a situation developing. The mess hall cleared rapidly as personnel returned to duty stations. Anakin and Rex followed Burnham to the bridge, where tactical displays showed a situation that made the captain's expression tighten with concern. Klingon squadron approaching Federation convoy, Saru reported from the tactical station. There's 7 warships against 3 cargo vessels and 2 escort frigates. The convoy is carrying medical supplies to the Xaheen colony, one of our few remaining allied systems in this sector. Can we intercept in time? Burnham asked. Negative, Saru replied. Even at maximum warp, we're 40 minutes out. The Klingon squadron will engage in 12 minutes. What about the Resolute? Tilly suggested. Their hyperdrive is still damaged, but didn't Commander Stamets say their sublight drives were functional? Ensign Tilly, the 501st are neutral, Cornwell's hologram reminded sharply. We cannot ask them to intervene in... Those are medical supplies, Anakin interrupted, studying the tactical display with an expression Burnham had learned to recognize. He was calculating angles, assessing capabilities, a planning and engagement despite claiming neutrality. Medical supplies for a colony, civilians, 300,000 colonists, Burnham confirmed. The supplies include vaccines for an outbreak that's already killed 2,000 people. If the Klingons destroy that convoy, the colony faces potential epidemic. Why would the Klingons target medical supplies? Rex asked. There's no tactical advantage in psychological warfare, Saru explained grimly. The Klingons are demonstrating that alliance with the Federation brings only death, that we can't protect our allies. Every colony that watches Federation convoys burn becomes more likely to negotiate separate peace with the Empire. Anakin turned to Burnham. Captain, how fast can your transporters move cargo between ships? Transporters? Burnham blinked at the non sequitur. To approximately 100 metric tons per minute at maximum capacity. Why? Because the Resolute can reach that convoy in 8 minutes, using sublight acceleration your Starfleet vessels can't match, Anakin replied, his tactical mind clearly working through a plan. If we engage the Klingon squadron, draw their fire, hold them off for, he calculated rapidly, 4 minutes, can the Discovery transport the medical supplies to safety before the convoy is destroyed? General, Cornwell's hologram interjected, you stated explicitly that the 501st would maintain neutrality. Engaging Klingon forces contradicts. Saving civilian lives isn't taking sides in your war, Admiral, Anakin countered. It's basic decency. The Klingons want to destroy medical supplies. They're welcome to try destroying the Resolute instead. Somehow, I doubt their disruptor banks will be more effective than Commander Cole's were. General Skywalker, Burnham said carefully, understanding what he was offering but also recognizing the consequences. If you engage that Klingon squadron, the Empire will consider you an enemy. General Martok's offer of respect and neutrality will vanish. You'll be choosing sides. No, Rex corrected, we'll be choosing civilians over military objectives. If the Klingons can't understand that distinction, they're not warriors. They're thugs hiding behind honor codes. Cornwell's hologram flickered, with what might have been approval despite her earlier objections. Captain Burnham, if the 501st is willing to engage, coordinate with them. Get those supplies to Zahia. Just understand, a general. Once you fire on Klingon vessels in defense of Federation assets, you become a legitimate military target. The Empire will hunt you. Let them try, Anakin said with the kind of confidence that came from facing down worse threats. Captain Rex, prepare the 501st for combat operations. Full defensive posture, shields to maximum. And Rex? Sir? No kills unless absolutely necessary. We disable, we don't destroy. I want the Klingons to understand that the 501st could have annihilated their squadron but chose restraint. Let's see if that earns respect or just makes them angrier. 6 minutes later, the Resolute erupted from the darkness of space at velocities that made Federation sensors recalibrate. The ion engines that could push a Star Destroyer to significant fractions of light speed in real space brought the massive warship into engagement range, while the Klingon squadron was still positioning for their attack run. Klingon vessels, this is General Anakin Skywalker of the Resolute. Anakin broadcast on open channels. You're targeting civilian medical supplies. Stand down or we will disable your ships. The response was 7 Klingon warships opening fire simultaneously. Disruptor beams and photon torpedoes struck the Resolute's shields in a concentrated barrage that would have overwhelmed any Federation starship. Against Republic military shields powered by a hypermatter reactor, the assault was merely impressive rather than effective. Shields holding at 86%, the clone tactical officer reported. You return fire? Precision strikes, Rex ordered, coordinating with the gunnery crews. Target their weapons and engines, make every shot count. The Resolute's turbo laser batteries spoke with green fire, each bolt precisely targeted at vulnerable systems on the Klingon vessels. Within 30 seconds, 3 birds of prey had their forward disruptors destroyed and their impulse engines disabled. 2 more lost shields completely. The remaining 2 attempted to break off, recognizing they were outmatched. Let them go, Anakin ordered. They're retreating. We don't chase." On the Discovery's bridge, Burnham watched the engagement with something approaching awe. The 501st had engaged 7 Klingon warships and neutralized 5 without destroying a single one, a level of tactical precision and firepower restraint that contradicted everything Starfleet knew about military operations at this scale. "Medical supplies are secure," Tilly reported. "We transported everything to the convoy escorts. The colony at Zahia will receive their vaccines." "Captain," Saru said quietly, "we just watched General Skywalker's forces defeat a Klingon squadron using less than 20% of their weapons capacity. If the 501st committed to full offensive operations against the Empire, then this war would end in weeks," Burnham finished. "Commander, prepare a full tactical analysis of the engagement. Starfleet Command will want to know exactly what we're dealing with." But even as she gave the order, Burnham couldn't shake the memory of Anakin's expression when he'd agreed to intervene. Not eagerness for battle, not political calculation about choosing sides, just weary acceptance that civilians needed protecting, and he had the capability to protect them. That, she realized, was the fundamental difference between Starfleet and the 501st. Starfleet fought when diplomacy failed. The 501st fought because fighting was what they were created to do. And they did it with a competence that made Federation military doctrine look theoretical by comparison. Hours later, General Martok's transmission arrived, directed specifically to the Resolute. "General Skywalker," the Klingon commander said, his scarred face showing grudging respect. "You engaged our forces to protect Federation assets. This makes you our enemy. However, you also fought with honor, showing restraint when annihilation was within your power. The Empire respects this. When we meet in battle again, and we will meet again, it will be as worthy adversaries, Kapla." The transmission ended, and Rex looked at Anakin with an expression that suggested he was waiting for the general to acknowledge they'd just made the decision they'd claimed they wouldn't make. "We chose civilians over politics," Anakin said firmly. "That's not taking sides, that's being Jedi." "Sir," Rex replied carefully, "the Jedi are Force users with cosmic guidance. You don't have the Force anymore. What's guiding you now?" Anakin was quiet for a long moment, staring at the stars that weren't the stars of his home galaxy, leading troops in a war that wasn't their war, thus making decisions without the cosmic certainty he'd relied on his entire life. "Conscience," Anakin said finally, "and the knowledge that if we stop protecting civilians because it's politically inconvenient, we become exactly what the Separatists claim the Republic is, an authoritarian power that sacrifices principles for strategic advantage. I won't let the 501st become that. Not here, not ever." "Even if it means we can't stay neutral?" Rex asked. "Especially then," Anakin replied, "because the moment we start making tactical decisions based on getting home faster rather than doing what's right, we've already lost everything that makes the 501st worth saving." In the Discovery's ready room, Admiral Cornwell's hologram delivered news that Burnham had been dreading. "Captain, Starfleet intelligence has intercepted Klingon communications regarding the 501st, Cornwell said. "The Empire is mobilizing a fleet, at least 20 warships, with orders to either recruit the 501st or eliminate them as a threat. General Skywalker's intervention today made him a priority target." "Admiral, we offered them asylum," Burnham protested. We can't just abandon them too. We're not abandoning them, Cornwell interrupted, but we're also not committing Federation resources to defending them from consequences of their own choices. Captain Yule informed General Skywalker that Starfleet appreciates his assistance but cannot guarantee protection from Klingon retaliation. If he wishes to remain in Federation space, he'll need to accept Starfleet command authority. Otherwise, he's on his own. That's the ultimatum you want me to deliver? Burnham asked. Submit to our authority or face the Klingon Empire alone. That's the reality of the situation, Cornwell replied. Captain, I understand you sympathize with the 501st, but the Federation's survival takes precedence over the comfort of displaced soldiers. Make the offer. See what he chooses. The transmission ended, and Burnham sat in her ready room, knowing that the choice she was about to offer Anakin Skywalker wasn't really a choice at all. It was a test to see whether the 501st would sacrifice their independence to survive in a galaxy that had no place for warriors who refused to compromise their principles. She strongly suspected she already knew what Anakin's answer would be, and that answer was going to make the next few weeks very interesting indeed. Anakin Skywalker stood alone in the Resolute's observation deck, staring at stars that weren't his stars, contemplating a war that wasn't his war, and facing a choice that had no acceptable answer. Behind him, the door hissed open. He didn't need the Force to know it was Rex. 3 years of combat had taught him to recognize his second-in-command's footsteps. Captain Burnham delivered Starfleet's ultimatum, Rex said without preamble. Submit to their command authority or face the Klingon fleet alone. They're giving us 12 hours to decide. It's not really a choice, Anakin replied, still watching the stars. Accept subordination to an authority that sees the 501st as weapons to be controlled, or fight a war against an enemy we don't understand in a universe where I can't feel the Force. Those aren't options, Rex. They're different flavors of impossible. Sir, with respect, we've faced impossible situations before. Rex moved to stand beside him, his armor reflecting the starlight. Geonosis, Christophsis, Umbara. The 501st specializes in winning battles we shouldn't be able to win. Those battles I could feel through the Force, Anakin said quietly. I could sense enemy movements, anticipate their tactics, know which path would lead to victory. Here, I'm making decisions blind, hoping tactical training compensates for losing the one advantage that made me effective. Rex, I'm terrified I'm going to get your troops killed because I can't see what's coming anymore. Then maybe, Rex suggested carefully, we stop trying to fight this like a Clone Wars engagement. Stop trying to choose between Federation subordination and Klingon conflict. Find a third option nobody's offering because they assume we'll play by their rules. Anakin turned to look at his captain, seeing the tactical mind that had kept the 501st alive through 3 years of war working through possibilities. What are you thinking? I'm thinking that both the Federation and the Klingons are treating us like a weapon they can either control or destroy, Rex said. But we're not a weapon. We're a military force that happens to have technological superiority, and superior forces don't get controlled. They set terms. You want to dictate conditions to governments that have been fighting this war for months? Anakin asked, surprised. I want to remind them that the 501st didn't ask to be here, didn't choose sides in their conflict. and damn well won't be forced into subordination by either faction, Rex replied with unusual heat. Sir, the Klingons respect strength and honor. The Federation respects principles and diplomacy. Let's demonstrate both so overwhelmingly that neither side can afford to treat us as anything less than equals. And how exactly do we demonstrate that without escalating into a full war? Anakin challenged. Rex pulled up a holographic tactical display showing the region of space where Federation and Klingon territories met. We force a ceasefire, not through negotiation, through demonstration. Hit both sides simultaneously, disable military installations on the border, prove we can cripple their war-fighting capability whenever we choose. Then offer terms they stop fighting each other, or we'll stop them permanently. Rex, that's insane, Anakin said. That's declaring war on both sides simultaneously. No, sir, Rex corrected. That's demonstrating we have the power to end their war, regardless of whether they want it ended. Right now, they're treating us like a resource to be exploited. We make ourselves a force of nature they have to accommodate. Like a star going nova. You don't control it. You don't negotiate with it. You just adjust your plans to account for its existence. Anakin considered the plan with the same analytical mind that had made him the Republic's youngest general. It was audacious, reckless, completely contrary to the neutral non-intervention the 501st had claimed to pursue. It was also, he realized, potentially the only way to establish the independence Rex correctly identified as essential to their survival. We'd need perfect coordination, Anakin said, his tactical instincts taking over despite his reservations. Hit multiple targets simultaneously so neither side has time to mobilize responses. Precision strikes that disable without killing. Prove our superiority while maintaining moral high ground. And we'd need an exit strategy that doesn't leave us occupying conquered territory. Agreed, Rex said. Which is why we tell both sides exactly what we're planning to do before we do it. Give them 12 hours to agree to ceasefire negotiations. If they refuse, we execute Operation Peacemaker. Operation Peacemaker, Anakin repeated. We're calling the military operation that attacks both sides of a war Peacemaker. Sir, the 501st has always been good at irony. 30 minutes later, Anakin stood in the Discovery's briefing room facing Captain Burnham, Admiral Cornwell's hologram, and, via separate secured channel, General Martok representing the Klingon Empire. The tension was thick enough to cut with a lightsaber. Let me be sure I understand, Admiral Cornwell said with dangerous calm. You're refusing Starfleet authority, declaring yourself an independent military force, and threatening to attack both Federation and Klingon installations unless we agree to immediate ceasefire negotiations. Not threatening, Admiral, Anakin corrected. Offering. The 501st has the capability to cripple your war-fighting capacity, both sides, simultaneously. We can disable your shipyards, your weapons platforms, your forward bases, all without killing a single person, because our weapons technology and tactical precision exceed anything you've demonstrated. We're offering you the opportunity to negotiate peace before we force it. This is madness, Burnham protested. General, you can't force peace through military action. That's a contradiction in terms? General Martok interrupted, his scarred face showing something between amusement and respect. Captain, the General is speaking the only language the Empire truly understands. The language of strength backed by capability, backed by will to use both. General Skywalker, you claim you can disable our installations without casualties. We've been doing it for 3 weeks, Anakin replied, pulling up recordings of their engagements. Every Klingon ship we've fought, we disabled rather than destroyed. Every weapons platform we've neutralized could have been annihilated. We choose restraint not from weakness, but from principle. And that principle is simple. The 501st protects civilians, minimizes casualties, and refuses to be leveraged as weapons in someone else's political conflict. A principle the Klingon Empire can respect, Martok said, surprising both Burnham and Cornwell. General, you fight with honor that prioritizes mercy over massacre. This is unusual, but if you possess the capability you claim, prove it. Disable one of our border installations. If you succeed without casualties, the Empire will agree to negotiate. And the Federation? Anakin turned to Cornwell's hologram. Admiral, your people talk about peace, about diplomatic solutions, about alternatives to violence. Here's your chance to prove those aren't just words. Agree to negotiations, or we'll demonstrate that continuing this war isn't a strategic choice. It's strategic suicide once you factor in the 501st as a variable you can't control. Cornwell's expression cycled through anger, calculation, and resignation before settling on grim acceptance. General Skywalker, if you attack Federation installations, you become our enemy. But if you can actually force both sides to negotiate... She paused, weighing consequences. Then perhaps you're offering something neither side could achieve through conventional warfare. You have 12 hours. Prove your capability. Then we'll talk. The transmission ended, and Burnham turned to Anakin with an expression mixing admiration and exasperation. You just threatened the 2 largest military powers in the quadrant. I offered them an exit from a war neither side is winning, Anakin corrected. Captain, how many people have died in this Federation-Klingon conflict? Estimates suggest over 2 million casualties across both sides, Burnham admitted quietly. The Clone Wars has killed billions, Anakin said flatly. I know what unending war looks like. I know how it consumes civilizations, how it turns principles into pragmatic compromises, until you can't remember what you were fighting for in the first place. Your war with the Klingons isn't there yet, but it will be if someone doesn't force both sides to recognize that escalation only leads to mutual destruction. And you think the 501st can be that force? Burnham challenged. I think we're the only force with the capability and the independence to try, Anakin replied. We're not Federation, so the Klingons can't dismiss us as biased. We're not Klingon, so the Federation can't claim we're serving the Empire's interests. We're just 30,000 soldiers with superior technology and the audacity to believe that forced peace is better than chosen war. Operation Peacemaker launched exactly 12 hours later, with precision that would be studied in military academies for generations, assuming anyone survived to have military academies. The 501st split into 4 task forces, each targeting a strategic installation on the Federation-Klingon border, simultaneously, with coordination that made Starfleet tactical doctrine look amateur by comparison. Task Force Dagger, led by Commander Apo, may hit the Federation weapons platform at Gamma Hydra. Turbo laser fire disabled shield generators and power distribution, leaving the platform defenseless but intact. 0 casualties. Task Force Razor, commanded by Commander Cody via holographic coordination from the Resolute, neutralized 3 Klingon listening posts. Each installation lost communications and defensive capability. 0 casualties. Task Force Hammer struck a Federation shipyard constructing new warships. Precision strikes disabled construction systems without touching the ships themselves or the thousands of workers aboard. 0 casualties. And Task Force Thunder, personally led by Captain Rex, engaged the heaviest target, a Klingon fortress protecting a strategic dilithium mining operation. The battle lasted 17 minutes. When it ended, the fortress's weapons were slag, its shields were offline, and its garrison was intact but unable to resist boarding if the 500 first chose to press the assault. 0 casualties. Across the quadrant, both Federation and Klingon command structures watched in real time as the 500 first demonstrated capability that exceeded their worst-case projections. Not through overwhelming numbers, not through technological terror weapons, but through tactical precision and weapons accuracy that made every shot count, while proving that the clones' claim of capability without casualties wasn't a bluff. They just neutralized 4 strategically critical installations in under 20 minutes. Admiral Cornwell said to her assembled command staff, her voice carrying disbelief. Without losing a single soldier, without killing a single defender, without even damaging non-military infrastructure. How is that possible? Because, Commander Stamets offered, studying the tactical analysis, they're not fighting a war of conquest. They're conducting a military demonstration designed to prove a point. Every shot is calculated. Every target is chosen for strategic impact without collateral damage. Admiral, the 501st isn't just good at warfare, they've elevated it to an art form. General Martok, watching from his flagship, came to similar conclusions. General Cover, he addressed his chief tactical officer, analysis. Overwhelming technological superiority combined with tactical genius, Cover replied grimly. The 500 first hit us where we're strongest and made our strength irrelevant. They didn't try to overpower our defenses. They simply bypassed them using capabilities we have no counter for. Honorable warfare backed by superior technology, a combination the Empire cannot match. Then perhaps, Martok said slowly, it is time the Empire learned the wisdom in knowing when an enemy is too powerful to fight and too honorable to fear. Contact General Skywalker. The Klingon Empire agrees to negotiations. The ceasefire talks were held aboard a neutral location, the Resolute itself, in the Star Destroyer's conference room, where Republic officers had planned campaigns across the galaxy. Now it hosted representatives from 2 warring factions, forced to negotiate because a third party had demonstrated they could end the war by force if diplomacy failed. I want to be clear, Anakin said as opening remarks, but standing at the head of the conference table flanked by Captain Rex, the 501st has no interest in governing your territory, controlling your resources, or choosing which side was right in this conflict. We want 3 things: peace in this region so we can repair our ship without constantly dodging your war, technology exchange to help us find a way home, and guarantee that neither side will attempt to acquire Republic technology through force or coercion. Those are significant demands, Cornwell observed. They're reasonable terms, given we just proved we could conquer you both if we wanted, Rex countered bluntly. Admiral, the 501st neutralized 8 strategic installations yesterday. We could neutralize 80 tomorrow. We choose not to because we're not conquerors. But don't mistake restraint for weakness. The Empire agrees to the terms, Martok declared, surprising the Federation representatives. General Skywalker, you have demonstrated honor in battle and wisdom in victory. The Klingon people respect strength, and you have shown strength tempered by mercy. We will cease hostilities with the Federation and negotiate lasting peace. On one condition, Martok added, when your ship is repaired, when you find your way home, the 501st will remember the Klingon Empire offered you brotherhood when the Federation offered only chains. Should you ever return to this universe, know that you have allies among warriors who understand honor. Burnham looked like she wanted to object to Martok's characterization of Federation intentions, but Admiral Cornwell's warning glance silenced her. The Admiral understood what Martok was doing, positioning the Klingons as having won the peace by being first to accept the 501st's terms, claiming diplomatic victory from military defeat. The Federation also agrees, Cornwell said carefully, but General, we need assurances that Republic technology won't proliferate. Your weapons could destabilize the entire quadrant if they fall into the wrong hands. Which is why, Commander Stamets interjected, entering the conference room with Commander Data from the engineering team. We've developed a joint solution. General Skywalker, we think we've found a way to send you home. Every eye in the room turned to Stamets, who pulled up technical schematics that made even Rex's tactical mind struggle to comprehend. The dimensional rift that brought you here created a unique signature, Stamets explained. We've been analyzing it for weeks. The breach wasn't random. It was engineered by technology that manipulates dimensional barriers using principles neither Federation nor Republic science fully understands. But we found remnants of that technology. Specifically, he paused for dramatic effect. We found a Sith holocron in Romulan space, transmitting on frequencies that match the dimensional breach. Anakin went very still. A Sith holocron here in your universe. We don't know how long it's been here, Stamets admitted, but its presence suggests that the barrier between our universes has been breached before, perhaps many times, and whoever brought that holocron here might have left other artifacts, including, possibly, the technology needed to create stable dimensional bridges. So you're saying, Rex interpreted, that someone from our universe has been visiting yours for, years, centuries? We're saying, Stamets corrected, that the technology exists to bridge dimensions, and that if we can recover the Sith holocron and study its energy signature, we might be able to recreate the dimensional rift under controlled conditions and send the 501st home. There's a problem, Burnham interjected. The holocron is in Romulan territory. The Romulan Star Empire is neutral in the Federation-Klingon conflict, but they're also paranoid, heavily militarized, and not inclined to let Starfleet ships into their space. Then it's fortunate, Anakin said with a slight smile, that the 501st isn't a Starfleet ship. We're an independent force, which means we can go places the Federation can't without triggering diplomatic incidents. You'd retrieve the holocron? Cornwell asked, surprised. General, entering Romulan space without authorization is an act of war. Only if we get caught, Rex replied. Admiral, the 501st has conducted covert operations behind enemy lines more times than I can count, slipping into Romulan space, retrieving an artifact and leaving before they notice. That's a Tuesday for us. Martok laughed. Actually laughed, a sound that made several Starfleet officers jump. General Skywalker, I see why your troops follow you. You possess tactical audacity that borders on insanity. The Empire approves of this plan. Of course you do, Burnham muttered. It's reckless, dangerous, and likely to start another war. Or, Anakin countered, it gets us home. It removes Republic technology from your universe and solves the problem of what to do with the 501st. Captain, we didn't ask to be here. We don't want to interfere in your politics. We just want to go home and finish the war we started. If that Sith holocron can help us do that, we'll retrieve it, with or without Federation approval. The silence that followed was broken by Admiral Cornwell's resigned sigh. General, if you're determined to do this, at least let us provide intelligence support. We have limited information on Romulan installations, but anything we know is yours. Bring back that holocron, send yourself home, and please, for the love of the Federation, don't start a war with the Romulans before you leave. No promises on that last part, Anakin replied with a slight smile, but we'll try. 3 weeks later, the 501st Infiltration Team returned from Romulan space with the Sith holocron, 17 minor injuries, 0 casualties, and a Romulan commander's grudging respect transmitted via encrypted channel. The artifact was ancient, its technology predating both Republic and Separatist innovations, its purpose apparently to map and manipulate dimensional barriers for reasons no one understood. It's been here for at least 300 years, Stamets reported after analyzing the holocron, which means someone from your universe visited ours centuries ago, left this behind. Whether intentionally or accidentally, we can't determine. But General, we can use its dimensional mapping protocols to recreate the rift. Send you home. There's a catch, Commander Data added. The dimensional bridge will be unstable. You'll have maybe 30 seconds to get the entire Resolute through before it collapses. If anyone's left behind, they're stuck here permanently. Rex finished. Understood. How long until we can attempt the crossing? 48 hours to calibrate the dimensional gateway, Stamets replied. General Skywalker, you're going home. Anakin should have felt relief, joy, anticipation of returning to the Clone Wars, to the Force, to the life he'd known before this impossible detour. Instead, he felt conflicted. The 501st had intervened in this universe's conflict, forced peace between warring factions, and in the process had demonstrated that military superiority without conquest was possible. Captain Burnham, Anakin said during the final coordination meeting, what happens to your peace with the Klingons after we leave? Or without the 501st as neutral arbiters? Then we'll have to maintain it ourselves, Burnham replied. General, you gave both sides something neither could achieve through warfare, a ceasefire with honor intact for both factions. The Klingons can claim they fought worthy opponents to a standstill. The Federation can claim we chose peace over endless war. That's a foundation we can build on. And if it fails, Rex asked. Then we fail knowing we tried, Burnham said. General, the 501st taught us something important. That technological superiority doesn't require moral superiority to use responsibly. That overwhelming force can coexist with restraint. The Federation needs to remember that lesson. 48 hours later, the Resolute positioned itself at the designated coordinates where Stamets and his team had constructed a dimensional gateway using principles from the Sith holocron. The massive Star Destroyer was surrounded by Federation and Klingon vessels, not as escorts but as witnesses to something unprecedented. General Skywalker, Admiral Cornwell, transmitted, "On behalf of Starfleet Command, thank you for the peace, for showing us what principled force looks like, and for not conquering us when you easily could have." General Martok added via separate channel, "The Empire salutes you. You fought with honor, showed mercy in victory, and proved that strength and principle need not conflict. Kapla warrior, may your battles be glorious." All personnel, Rex announced across the Resolute's internal comm, "prepare for dimensional transition. The hypermatter reactor to maximum output, all systems to full power. This is it, people. We're going home." Anakin stood on the bridge, feeling the absence of the Force, but also feeling something else. Certainty that didn't come from cosmic guidance, but from knowing the 501st had done what they always did, faced impossible odds, made hard choices, and survived with honor intact. "Activate the gateway," Anakin ordered. Reality tore open in front of the Resolute, not the familiar blue-white tunnel of hyperspace, but a rift showing nothing. Absolute void between universes. The Star Destroyer's engines roared, pushing the massive vessel toward a hole in space that shouldn't exist, toward home, toward the war they'd left behind. For 27 seconds, the Resolute traveled through nothing, through the space between realities, yet through dimensions that had no name in any physics textbook. And then the Force returned. Anakin gasped as cosmic energy flooded back into his consciousness. Connection restored. The missing sense he'd operated without for weeks suddenly present again. He felt the Resolute's crew through the Force, felt the galaxy, his galaxy, stretching out before them, felt the Clone Wars still raging, still consuming systems, still killing billions. "Sir," the navigator reported, voice shaking with relief. "We're back. Republic space. Coordinates match our last known position before the dimensional displacement. Sir, we're home." Cheers erupted across the bridge. Clone troopers who'd maintained military discipline through weeks of impossible strain finally allowed themselves the relief of knowing they'd survived. They'd returned. They'd overcome odds that should have destroyed them. "General," Rex said quietly, "the Force. You can feel it again." "Like I never left," Anakin confirmed. But even as he said it, he realized that wasn't quite true. He'd spent weeks making decisions without cosmic guidance, relying on tactical thinking and moral certainty rather than Force visions. He'd learned he could be effective, could be a leader, without the Force as a crutch. That was a lesson worth keeping. "Set course for Coruscant," Anakin ordered. "The 501st needs to report in, and I need to tell the Council that the universe is a lot bigger and stranger than any Jedi realized." But as the Resolute turned toward the core worlds, long-range sensors detected something that made the sensor officer's voice tight with concern. "Sir, we're receiving emergency transmissions from across the Outer Rim. Multiple systems reporting dimensional anomalies. Tears in space similar to what brought us to the Federation universe. Sir, they're appearing everywhere. Dozens of rifts opening simultaneously across the galaxy." Anakin felt ice form in his stomach. The Sith holocron hadn't been the only artifact bridging dimensions. Whatever technology had brought the 501st to the Star Trek universe was activating across the Republic. And through those rifts, who knew what else might cross over? "All hands, battle stations," Anakin ordered. "Rex, get me a tactical analysis of those dimensional rifts. And somebody contact the Jedi Council. Tell them we have a situation that makes the Clone Wars look simple by comparison. Because if the barriers between universes were failing, if Star Wars and Star Trek were just the first two realities to collide, then the 501st's adventure in the Federation universe hadn't been an isolated incident. It had been a warning, and warnings, Anakin knew from bitter experience, meant something worse was coming. The 501st Legion has returned home, but the barriers between universes are collapsing. Dimensional rifts are opening across the galaxy, and somewhere in the space between realities, forces beyond Jedi or Sith comprehension are stirring. The Clone Wars were just the beginning. The real conflict, the war that spans dimensions, is about to begin, and the 501st, having survived one impossible journey, will discover that some battles can't be won with superior firepower alone. If you want to see more crossover scenarios where Star Wars collides with other universes, smash that subscribe button and tell us in the comments which universe should cross over with Star Wars next. The barriers are breaking down, the multiverse is colliding, and the 501st Legion just became humanity's and the galaxy's first line of defense against threats from beyond reality itself. Subscribe now, because the adventure has only begun, and you won't want to miss what comes through those dimensional rifts next. May the Force be with you. More stories await.